Mm, it's okay. I don't mind animated movies. They're not necessarily the very first thing I'm going to gravitate toward, but I don't have a problem with them. In fact, I just finished watching the first season of What If, and it was fantastic, fantastic. But I don't mesh with all animated movies. And while I have seen quite a few of Studio Ghibli's offerings, I think the very first one I saw was Spirited Away. It was all right. Then I saw Princess Mononoke. It was all right. Then I saw The Castle. Is it Clouds or something like that? The one that Christian Bale did the voice of one of the main characters. That's probably my favorite one of all the Studio Ghibli movies I've seen. And then I recently saw The Boy and the Heron. I watched the subtitled version, which I really wish I could have had access to the dubbed, because I prefer dubbed anime, not subtitled. But anyway, I was able to experience the story. I guess fundamentally it doesn't matter. I just prefer English language voice acting in animated things. I'll start right off the bat by saying the animation was beautiful. It was, like all of Studio Ghibli's animations, it was very well done, and the characters were quite unique, and it flowed very well. The movement very lifelike and just pleasing to the eye. Some of the things. But like pretty much all other Studio Ghibli movies, some of the characters look weird and wonky, and I'm not a huge fan of the weird and wonky flavor that comes with most of the Studio Ghibli movies. I think probably the Castle one was the only one that seemed a bit more on the normal side as far as how most of the characters looked, and maybe Princess Mononoke as well. And also, it touched on serious themes and subject matters like, loss and the horrors of war. The character loses his mother in an event that happens during the war. I think maybe it's World War II. I can't remember if it's World War II, whatever. Anyway, whatever. He loses his mother, and his father has remarried or has gotten together with, from what I can understand, his mother's sister, so his aunt. Awkward. And he's having a bit of trouble dealing with that, and he notices there's this heron that's hanging around the new place that he has moved to with his father, and he's kind of taken with that heron and feels like there's something going on with it, and he wants to explore more, and there's like a strange place there on the property, and he gets caught up in this fantastical world, like something that happens in maybe all of these Studio Ghibli movies. And so, it was okay. I saw that, this movie has got a lot of fans. Studio Ghibli has a lot of fans. People just rave about Miyazaki. Is that how you say his name? I think he's just fabulous, and he certainly is an extremely talented animator and a very creative storyteller, but I don't feel like I mesh as well with him as many other people do. It's going to sound a bit blasphemous to say something like this, but I honestly feel like Studio Ghibli films and Miyazaki's works are a bit overrated. I'm not as enamored with his work as the majority of people seem to be, or the majority of people who watch his movies seem to be. I don't hate them. They're not awful, and I don't feel like they're, a waste of my time. And I know when I'm going into them, it's going to be something that's very creative and different, but I'm not a fan of like these weird, like some of the character designs are so weird and look odd, and I don't like the way some of them look. Also, I've noticed in his movies that it seems like a lot of times there's this seems to be like a running sort of theme or running sort of aspect to his movies, that the main characters, let's say, they're caught up in this fantastical story and they don't even stop to like be amazed or startled at all this craziness that's going on around them. They seem to just kind of take it in stride. It's no big deal that the heron's face starts to emerge out of his beak or whatever, all these weird creatures. And what the heck was up with the birds in this movie? I did not understand the laws of this strange world that he went into. It was just so weird. And while I did get sort of the basics of the story that was going on, it just felt just so strange to me. And strange I can get if it makes some logical type of sense, but there was just stuff about this world he was in that made no sense to me. I didn't get what the big deal was with the birds. I didn't understand, like, what was with the flying paper and the paper that was, what was with that? Obviously there was symbolism going on in this world and in these experiences that this character went through, but I don't get what the symbolism was. And why in the world was he so taken with the heron in the first place? For all he knew, it could have just been a regular old bird. What was the deal with that? Also, the characters would do things that sometimes didn't make any sense. They're trying to get out of this certain situation or location and going through these magical doors and don't bother to close the door behind them to make sure that the things can't follow through the door. You know, I was like, what? Also, there were some other things that kind of, I noticed that I didn't feel like the voice acting was the best. Now, that might partly be because I don't speak the language, so I can't necessarily tell. Maybe I can't necessarily tell what constitutes great acting, but I feel like I can. I feel like I can pick up on when the acting feels genuine or is really sparking emotion in me and when it feels a little bit cringe. And there were moments in here, especially when some of the characters would show emotion like crying or whatever, and it just didn't sound natural. I honestly, yes, maybe I'm biased in favor of the English dub, but I honestly feel like the English voice actors probably do a better job in this movie. I wouldn't know until I get a chance to watch it. I was hoping to go see it on the big screen with Arturo, but I think it's left our theaters by now. Something I totally forgot to mention that was and a point that I put down in the con category. It's maybe a little unfair to call it a con, but just something that I noticed that kind of stuck with me was that the voice of the main character, the actor who did his voice, he sounds older than he looks. This kid he's still in, like, I don't know, middle school. He looks like he's just a young mid-teenager or so, and yet he's got a very adult sounding voice. So I don't feel like they did the best job in picking the most fitting voice actor for his part. So yeah, that was just something that I meant to mention and totally forgot. Okay, back to the video. But anyway, yeah, these are just kind of my very quick sort of thoughts about The Boy and the Heron. I think if you're a fan of Studio Ghibli and Miyazaki's work, you'll probably really enjoy this film. Some of the reviews I've been seeing for it, or headlines of the reviews I've been seeing for it, are saying things like, this is his best one yet. He's proven he's still got it, you know. So if you certainly like his other stuff, you really dig it, I think you're going to enjoy this quite a bit. If you feel kind of about his other stuff, you might feel about this, and that's kind of how I felt. Like I said, I think my favorite was the castle one. Clouds or something. I get it confused because there's a title that Sound Booth Theater has worked on called Clouds or City in the... So I get these two things mixed up. Whatever. You guys know the one I'm talking about. I think I meshed with that one much better than his other ones. Princess Mononoke was okay as well. But yeah, I saw The Boy and the Heron. It's okay. I don't plan to watch it again unless I get my hands on the English dub. Then I will probably rewatch it with Arturo just so I can compare the two different versions. But I don't know when that's going to be, so I decided to just go ahead and film this review because I think that my impression of the story won't really change even with the dubbing, but certainly my thoughts about the performance might be different. So anyway, yeah, that's all I've got to say for The Boy and the Heron, and I'm gonna wrap this one up, you guys. See you later. Bye.